Hey everyone, I hope you're doing okay. Been a little bit poorly over here, so hoping not looking too bad bringing this video to you guys. But I wanted to bring it because so last week I did a mini video or looking at chromophores, and someone had made the comment that they thought that maybe I hadn't got something right. And I'm a huge believer that everything I put out has to be backed by research. I have to be able to absolutely justify everything I'm saying and where it's coming from, and you know, why I believe something or why I think something. And so, you know, I'm always happy to be, you know, pushed back on things. Absolutely not a problem. It's how we learn, it's how we grow. And I certainly have had done a lot of learning over the years. So I pulled the video because I wanted to go and fact check everything and just make sure that in my head I was right. And so I did that, did some research, chatted with Dr. Lisa Miller, who she's an amazing wealth of knowledge. She always kind of helps make sure that I'm, you know, if ever I've got a question, she is that fountain of knowledge that I'll always go to. And so I wanted to redo the video just to clarify that, in case you saw the video and then it disappeared, because I don't want you ever thinking that, you know, I'm not taking into account anyone's views. But I would never want to keep something up if I didn't think, you know, if I wanted to absolutely verify. So re-going over the facts. So chromophores, they are a huge part of PBMT. So they are a molecule that absorbs light and reflects colour. And like I say, huge part when we're talking about PBMT. So we have biologically active chromophores and non-biologically active chromophores. So you know, when we're talking about, again, hemoglobin, melanin, they're non-biologically active. They don't have organelles. They don't, you know, work for in terms of photobiomodulation at all in the same way. And then we have our cells where, again, we have all those organelles. We all know that we target cytochrome C oxidase is our key photoreceptor in terms of stimulating PBMT. So those are the difference there. And we know different wavelengths will be absorbed more readily by different chromophores. So again, you'll hear us talk about when we're targeting tissue, which wavelengths are we using to try and target that cytochrome C. And we don't want to lose light in our incidental absorbers like melanin, hemoglobin, oxyhemoglobin, fat. We only have a certain amount of light that we are able to deliver. And we know if we're looking at deep tissue conditions, we want as much of that light deep into those tissues as possible. If we're losing that light, those photons into melanin, hemoglobin, oxyhemoglobin, water, fat, etc., we're not getting as much energy into our deep tissues, and they are not going to have, again, an impact on photobiomodulation in terms of ATP, reactive oxygen, nitric oxide. Because again, they have no organelles, so they are not able to do that. Now, so that's why we use wavelengths that avoid those incidental absorbers, or as best as we can. You know, we're always going to lose something into them, but we try to pick wavelengths that can penetrate through these incidental absorbers as best as possible, without losing that much light to them. Now, I know there are some arguments out there about targeting hemoglobin and oxygen dissociation and how that may play a part. I have a couple of things about this, and again, this is where I wanted to verify all my research and that I was right in my thinking. Yes, there is potential that it may impact. However, there is absolutely no research that currently backs that thought process. And even if we did, we would actually want to use red light, not infrared. And that's really important. And Lisa, she knows how I work. I have to have things to kind of link to things so that it makes sense. And she made a really good point. You know, when we're having our blood pressure, our oxygen saturation monitored, and they put it on our finger, it's red light. Of course it is. And when we look at the kind of absorption curves, again, if we look at the lower end, if we're actually truly trying to target hemoglobin, it's actually red light we would want, not infrared. So it's really important to understand that, okay, yes, there may be some arguments out there for oxygen dissociation, but there's currently no research at all. And this is backed up by, if you've seen the paper by Zine et al., their review of PBM parameters, they again very clearly state that we have to take into account incidental absorbers into our doses and our protocols. Again, hemoglobin, oxyhemoglobin, water, fat, all of that, because we don't want to lose energy into those, because we don't get the best responses from our treatments. Again, they're not biologically active, we don't have organelles there, so we're not stimulating true PBMT. And again, they have made the comment that maybe there is a secondary mechanism for oxygen dissociation, but again, there is overwhelmingly no evidential support to say that it has any benefits. So if there's any confusion around that, I really recommend you going to check out that paper, as it really kind of clears it up really nicely in terms of all of that. And you know, all lasers will target hemoglobin in some way, shape or form. So again, it's not saying that you need a specific wavelength to be able to target hemoglobin if that's what you were trying to do, because they all will in some way, shape or form. But actually, if we were actually trying to target it, we would want red light, not infrared. So I hope that kind of clears it up a little bit. So chromophores, again, they're really key to PBMT. They're absorbing the light and then reflecting colour, and obviously kickstarting chain reactions. We have biologically active and non-biologically active chromophores depending on, you know, what the cell makeup is. And again, our melanin, hemoglobin, they are non-biologically active. What they do is when they absorb that light, they produce heat. So they do produce heat, but again, it's not stimulating that true photobiomodulation. If we wanted to stimulate them, we want shorter wavelengths, not longer wavelengths. But actually, being honest, we don't want to target them. If we're trying to stimulate true PBMT, then you know, we want as much of our light as possible getting into those deeper tissues. So by losing light to them, we're losing some of our dose. So I hope that cleared it up. If you have any questions or any thoughts, please give me a shout. I'm more than happy to discuss in any more detail, and happy to share, you know, a link to that paper if anyone was interested.